Hey, Steve.
What?
Why wouldn't the window laugh?
I don't know. Why won't the window laugh?
Because it would crack up.
Oh. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engage, a family gaming podcast. This is episode 146, and my name is Stephen Duetzmann. I'm your host, as always. This week, we're here to talk about board games. I know, I skipped last week. I'm a bad person. We were going to talk about Fortnite. We're going to do that again. It's going to be fine. But I didn't want to miss this awesome board game episode because I have two very special guests, two of the hosts of the Which Game First podcast. I have Celeste, not Carla, that's somebody from before. This is Celeste, DeAngelis, and Joe Unfried. How are you two?
Hi.
I'm great tonight. How are you?
I'm doing kind of okay. I almost screwed up one of my guest names. It's faux pas, but we're gonna roll with it. Forgive me.
That's all right.
We met literally 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, I get Leslie a lot.
Leslie?
Chelsea.
Okay, we're going to talk about... Let's put a pin in that, because I want to know why... I want to know what kind of Starbucks-level nonsense they get Leslie out of Celeste. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I guess that's somewhat possible. But we'll talk about that down the line. But before we go too much farther, folks, I do want to remind you, EFG is a website where parents like myself and my co-hosts come together to give parents and families the information they need to get their family game on. As I said, this week, I'm the only member of the regular EFG crew that is here. I'd like to say that I'm a pillar of strength, but really I'm just the only guy who showed up because I hit the record button. But I have two special guests, and I welcome you both. But we also have our audience kind of hanging out. They're silent, but they're there. Not literally, but, it's the metaphorical there. And I do want to thank you folks for listening. We hope the games that you've been playing have been great. We do want to make our podcast more interactive, so please feel free to reach out to us. The best way to do it is to send us a message on our Facebook page that you can get to at facebook.com/engagedfamilygaming. We're talking about board games this week. Specifically, We're talking about, who's not hype about board games? We're right on the heels of Gen Con, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And we get like a very brief break before the fall just tumbles into itself with all sorts of other board game conventions, be they smaller ones, and I think ending with PAX Unplugged. Is PAX Unplugged the end?
It's November, so probably.
Getting to the end of the season.
Joe is headed out to PAX, and so is Ed. He's another one of our panelists.
Oh, yeah? All right, so we'll talk about that, because I will also be there.
Cool.
I will be likely working at the Restoration Games booth, because my understanding is they need someone to help run a register while people charge them like crazy to take their Fireball Island from them. So I will be swiping cards on an iPad for 5 hours straight for my two shifts. Oh, wow. It's going to be insane. I'm going to wear like catcher's gear because I'm afraid that I'm going to get beat up. On that note, so let's talk a little bit about the podcast that you guys do. That's the main topic. So elevator pitch. For those folks that are still listening, what is y'all's podcast about?
So
other than board games.
Yeah, well, other than board games, not a lot. But
some of them are card.
Yeah,
games,
sure. If you want to count card, but it is all games analog. I know you do video.
Yeah.
And speaking of Fortnite, my son is totally into it right now. Our son.
Yeah.
And he is. I think he's playing it right now.
He is.
Sucking up some bandwidth. Yeah.
So
I mean, hey.
He's awake, so he's probably doing.
Right.
He's making the best of his last week of summer before school starts.
What little time there is before the. Before he goes back to school.
How long ago did he get like swept up in it? Was it is this like the summer of Fortnite for him, or was
Funny
he kind
story?
I'd love to hear it.
So I'm interviewing folks at the CT Fig.
Yeah.
So the Connecticut Festival of Indie Games.
I was there. I was one of the judges.
Oh, okay, great. So we were there too, and we were interviewing, some interesting people. One that I enjoyed a lot was. Clear the Decks, which did make its Kickstarter. It did this week, so congratulations to them.
Congrats to Chris. I love that guy. He's a good dude.
He is, and I really enjoyed hearing about the evolution of that game as he designed it. So it happened, the FIG happened to be at Kineticon, and Kineticon is a bigger fandom convention.
Yeah.
The FIG was inside, but in where the FIG was in Kineticon, it was in the room with the video games. So it was in with the land for Fortnite.
I was
so
very hyped for that.
Yeah, it was great. What a fantastic
so that's what hooked
attraction. So yeah, that was actually
really?
Max's, my son's first opportunity to actually play Fortnite. He had been bugging me about it for a long time, but I thought he's a little young, so I didn't think to get it. He's 9.
Okay, I have a 9-year-old too. Totally with you. We questioned it too.
Yeah, but he learned how to play at the Kineticon from the people who were there, Lanning, and then he started teaching other people there, by the end of the day. So after that, I saw how much he enjoyed it. I got to see it there, so I thought after that I'd get it for him, and he is enjoying it.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that it's free.
Right, yeah.
I mean, with the Battle Pass, it's like $10, but that's $10 for a video game that you can play for an entire summer is somewhat negligible in price. Funny story, we had a similar kind of thing. I mean, I'm generally pro game, right? So like we play Overwatch, which is a T-rated shooter in this house, and it's basically like the Avengers. I don't know how familiar you guys are, but it's basically like the Avengers. And my older son is 12, and we let him play Destiny 2, which is a little darker, but like you're obviously shooting things that are like unquestionably evil, so it's kind of like okay. You're saving mankind, so it's fine. But Fortnite, my wife really was kind of drawing the line on it because you're shooting other people. She and there was no like story or really anything. It's a battle royale.
No rationalization about it.
Nope.
It's and so she had her doubts, and I was like I was like, you know what? If this is where she wants to draw the line in the sand, I'm going to follow orders. Which is, I refer to her as the general. I do what I'm told. And so then we sent the boys off to Boy Scout camp. And so they came back, and we saw them in the middle of the week, right? You go up in the middle of the week for a parents' night, and both of them were like, dude, this is miserable. Just all everybody's doing is talking about Fortnite. If this is what school is going to... Like, nobody's even heard of Overwatch. Like, it used to be that, like, okay, they don't play Call of Duty, but they play Overwatch, so that's close enough. But, like, they were there, and they're like, nobody even has any interest in talking about Overwatch anymore. And so... I was like, honey, listen, we can't send them into school without having any idea what Fortnite is. Let's just buy the Battle Pass. We'll let them play it for the summer. And, if they get crazy or if we're worried about something, we can just take it away. I mean, it's a free game. I can delete it. And it's, so we did it. And I can't say their behavior has gotten perfect. But, they haven't, as I suspected, they haven't gone completely insane. And for $10 for them to get, however many hours of entertainment, I can't really fault the game. And it's and now they are equipped to go back to school and have their own stories about how they almost got a victory royale and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're really good at the dances.
It is the language. Yeah. They love the dancing.
Who knew, right? Who knew that was going to be like the cultural mark of this game? Is that like we're about to enter the NFL season. I guarantee you every Sunday we're going to see some replay of some dude doing a Fortnite dance. Like it's absolutely a thing.
Right. So let's get, you know what? I am the queen of getting sidetracked, so let me get back to your first question.
This is literally sidetrack the podcast, so don't you worry about it. But yeah, so let's talk about which game first.
Yeah, so which game first is it's a light, quick review show, which really plays to my strengths and also my interests. I got the guys together to do this podcast. We've been friends a long time, gamers a long time, but for me, I'm a huge podcast fan in general, and there's lots of deep dives out there, longer shows. And what I enjoy a lot of times is sort of a light overview of something, and then I'll make a decision based on that whether I want to go deeper. Then I might pick up a different podcast to get that deep dive on that particular game. So what we do is light, fun overviews. We sit down together, play the game, and then we talk about our experience. So about playing that game, how we played it together, and then what the game is generally about. And we cover 3 games a week. in our podcast, so it's pretty quick in succession because our podcast is 30 to 40 minutes.
Sure.
And it's geared toward light and entertaining.
Sure. All right.
So, and I think we're having a good time.
And we have 5
that.
adults talking about it, so there's often levels of differing levels of how much we like something.
Oh, of course.
One of the things I really enjoy about it is that there are 5 different opinions, and oftentimes they're really talking about 5 different aspects of the game. So, whereas Ed might be really into the strategic aspects of the game, or in love with certain rules of the game, Mike might be more interested in the overall design. I'm looking at the art and the immersion,
sure.
And Joe is looking sort of at its historical place or its place in the world, sort of a global aspect, and so forth. Evan Bernstein is with us, and he's a big panelist on the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which
sure.
is a huge science podcast. He's an old friend of ours, and one day I just said, "Hey, Ev, let's put something together that's about games, since we
sure.
love them so much."
Sure. So you get the 5 of you in a room. You play a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So you play a game. You record. You play a game. Like, I'm worried. I'm curious. Like, because I love logistics. I should probably work at like UPS or something. Except for the fact that I look terrible in brown. But so I look terrible in just about everything. But that's besides the point. So the logistics of this. So you have 5 nerds that you put in a box. That is otherwise known as a room. You play a game.
Yeah.
I read your About Us page. You're definitely all nerds. That's fine. I would fit in great with you. So
I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I probably would. So we've got you all play a game and then you talk about it, or do you how do you do this? Because getting 5 people in a room to play games is hard.
Yeah, it is, except we benefit from a couple of things. We're local to each other.
Sure.
The farthest one away, we're all in Connecticut except for Mikey, who has to take the train up from Manhattan, or from Queens. So he takes the train, and we usually get together once a week, usually on Thursday nights. That's our game night.
Sure.
And incidentally, for our Patreon supporters, we're going to start doing a Discord chat with our supporters once a month. And that'll be on Thursday nights probably. And we're hoping to get it done once a month. So that'll be when we're together, which will make it easier for us. But then we do play it. We do throw down a microphone on the table so that we can get snippets of actual gameplay, which we plug into the podcast.
Sure.
But the podcast is primarily we then go sort of home, write our notes about it, and then we bring those notes to the recording, which is usually within a week or 2 of playing the game.
Sure. Okay.
And then we chat about it. We chat it up. At the end, our theme is, sort of a light exploration theme,
Sure.
where we kind of have an adventure music type of thing. Our little icon, our logo is a die with a pith helmet on,
Sure.
because we're game explorers. And so at the end of each game segment, we decide whether or not we want to dig up or bury the game. Meaning, do we leave it, or do we find it, treat it as a hidden treasure?
Sure.
So it's a fun little thing, and I love having 5 different opinions.
And we're rarely unanimous. I mean,
Rarely,
it happens,
yeah.
but not that often.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I have learned in the last lifetime is that it's hard to get a bunch of nerds to agree on anything, let alone a game. But in general, I mean that I think that's a great thing. Like a consensus when it comes to opinions about media is boring.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I like hearing different opinions, so that sounds great.
Agreed.
So
one thing that I liked about it was how I think we all start to develop we started to develop a sort of an instinct as to which reviewers we're going to like let's say movie reviewers. Like I used to pick up the Chicago Sun-Times because they would usually, Roger Ebert or something, would usually have my opinion.
Sure.
So it's nice to sort of go to listen to our podcast, and maybe you tend to lean toward the way Joe thinks about games. So
Sure.
If Joe liked it, I'm probably going to like it. And as a listener, I think what's nice is we offer a bunch of different angles, and you can sort of develop an instinct as to which reviewer is more like you in what you would enjoy in a game.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. That's a great thing. I mean, if you listen to enough review media, you're going to find those people that are you, just doing the thing. And it's a great feeling to find somebody that you can trust because you just know. I have that with video games, and I have that with board games too. So it's great that you guys can provide in 1 half-hour to 40-minute chunk. You guys can provide 5 different voices. That's a pretty good roll of the die. So somebody listening to your show, hopefully they'll be able to identify and agree with one of you and get used to that.
Right.
That's a great, as opposed to some other shows that are just 1 or 2 people. You got 5 different. Informed,
very different,
informed and educated voices.
Yeah.
I think that's super rad. So, how long have you guys been doing
it? You think it's rad. We think it's rad. Our editor, not so much.
Well,
no.
Yeah.
Producers never think anything is rad. They just, Sorry.
It's just it's a complicated cut for our editor.
Oh, I'll bet.
That's what I mean. It's a lot of voices. And we record, obviously, we stream. I'm not sure how your recording format goes, but we record separate locally. So he has to go through 5 different audio tracks and blend them. It's a handful for him, but I think it's a beautiful cut every week, so we're really happy with that.
And some people might actually have favorite members of the cast. If there's 5 of them, I mean, it's like an ensemble of character actors and some.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing it that long. We're only on episode 23, and I think less than that have been released already. But Evan's a veteran, a 10-year veteran of podcasts. I have some background with indie movies back before the kids were born and all that stuff. We kind of come from performance backgrounds. And, of course, we ran live action games together, which is highly performative. So I think we're all pretty comfortable in the format.
And Mike's been editing for a long time.
Oh, he has?
Yeah.
All right. So, certainly not questioning experience. I can tell from your voices that you guys know your way around a microphone. Longtime fans of the show know that I have LARPed myself.
Ooh, fun.
So,
what LARPs have you? Where are you, by the way?
I am in Connecticut.
You are?
I am in Connecticut. I am in.
So which LARP? We must know it then.
Well, you probably. I play Alliance.
Which okay.
was Nero Alliance, which was Nero, blah, blah, all those shenanigans.
You might know my brother. I don't know when you started. He was in the early 90s. He played Nero.
Probably not then. I am from the first few seasons post-split, if you remember what that shenanigans was.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So I came...
LARPing drama. We know that.
Yeah, LARPing drama. Yeah. So I'm one of... the first wave that came, because there was a wave, and I don't know why it actually happened that way, but just a bunch of new chapters opened. But I was part of the wave that came in after the split, so I never knew what any of that drama was, and truthfully, I didn't know that any of it happened until I started getting involved less casually, 3 or 4 years later, and at that point, it was over. Except in the hearts and minds of those who were deeply involved financially and otherwise. So I was just a different kind of nerd. But I'm the GM of the former Connecticut chapter, and I was the head of national customer service for Alliance. Actually, full disclosure, I guess I have to say that. But really, by head of national customer service, I basically am.
Fascinating.
I don't have any day-to-day responsibilities. It's great. Whenever someone needs to write an email to someone and be like, hey, they call me in and I help consult with owners on how to deal with different issues, because I have a strong customer service background. That's my day job. So, I'm very familiar with the LARPing community, and if something weird and shenanigan-y is happening, which, as you all know, happens all the time, if they don't know how to handle it, exactly. If they don't know how to handle it, they just throw up the bat signal, and I come in and help them, do crisis management, but crisis, because it's they have a problem with a person who's cheating or something, which is in the local scale, it's a huge big deal, but you know how that goes.
Of course, yeah.
So,
We actually had what we called them the official ombudsman, and actually Evan used to be our ombudsman. Evan Bernstein, when we were running Lion Rampant. I don't know if you know. It's a small.
With that name.
Yes. Yeah. So Lion Rampant we used to run years ago, and Evan was our ombudsman, and boy, oh boy, he's got some stories.
Oh, man.
I suppose you could say that was an offshoot of Nero in a purely intellectual.
Well, I don't know about that. You could say they sort of were all together at the beginning.
Yeah.
They were all sort of came from the same place.
I think just about every LARP in North America kind of owes its roots to like that beginning, and then there was a blossoming, and then a contraction, and then more blossoming, and now it's just bananas.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Which is great.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried some of the other ones, and I mean, now being that I run a small business and I have 3 children, it is hard.
Right. Yes.
But
tell me about it.
I still
sing it, brother.
I still have my stuff in my car. So because I played once in March. And I still I left my stuff like all folded up in my car neatly so that I can pretend like at any time
you can drop everything and go on a Saturday.
And I'm sure that my wife would let me because she wants me to go away so she can have alone time. But like LARPing's expensive and I'm old. And all these
both of those things, yeah. And the kids, are they old enough? That's another thing. My kids aren't quite old enough.
Not yet. So I suspect because my oldest is 12. And most of the Alliance chapters that I am in are 18 plus. There was a period of time where they were moving down. They went to 16. And then some of them were even considering going down to 14. But
I know there are LARPs out there for 14.
Oh, there absolutely are. And the main reason is I'm just familiar with the rule set, and it'd be an opportunity for me to go play with the people that I want to play with. But it just comes down to the issue that they, for insurance, it's crazy, which you guys know all that stuff about. And a lot of the current crop of storytellers and things like that, they all want to write stuff that is not, they want to write more, darker
adult level stuff, grittier things.
Yeah, so rather than hey, there's these goblins in the woods, go stop them. So that's just their flavor of stuff. So as a result, it skews things. But once my kids are a little bit older, I'll be dusting off the old Boffer swords and
shield
well, I'm a healer now because I'm way too old. So
come on. You don't have any sword arm left.
Oh, I mean, no. See, we could go on for. Well, let's just do it. Let's just do this. So I really have only played one. I have like a handful of characters, but it's basically I play one dude or I NPC. But my primary character is a very aggressive healer, and so I punch things every once in a while because I'm bored, and I fight low level stuff, and I like to wade in with the low level guys and help them out because if I am there, I'll help the little guys that have never fought before, and I make them virtually invincible because I am the immovable object. And that's like my.
Isn't that fun though?
Oh,
that's
it's
so
great.
rewarding.
Oh yeah, it is great.
So rewarding helping the new player.
Oh, I totally love it, and that's why I did it because I spent a lot of time, and I've been playing the same character for 10, 15 years at this point, but I have had that moment where I was the main character in the story, and I fought the dragons, and I did the stuff, and now I'm super excited to be the supporting character in someone else's story. Because I don't need.
Well, I don't like the term immovable object on there because sooner or later, that if you need to have an immovable object in that scenario, it always ends up being the cleric.
Yeah.
Or the healer, most often.
Yeah. And
Joe's a big fan of playing the cleric too, right, Joe?
Yeah. I mean, I based. At some point, I was given an opportunity to redesign the character, through in-game stuff, and I went from being like a heavy, fighter with like a big polearm, and I switched, and that was great because I'm tall and I have long reach, and it was obnoxious. But the game figured out how to fight me, at which point then I became useless because I was one polearm guy and everybody else is sword and board. So then we're losing listeners.
Polearms do much better with a team with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some couple shields in front of them to hide behind.
Yeah, and so I switched to do a thing where I switched to healing, and when I did that, I designed it to be like a holy paladin in World of Warcraft, so that it's just I'm there, I'm hard to kill. And there have been plenty of times where it's been obnoxious for storytellers to figure out how to kill me or people around me because I'm just Captain Healy guy that is also very hard to hit because I know exactly what fighters want and all that stuff. So this is I created my own design space because the game is not designed for people to want to only protect other people. It's all either I do lots of damage or I'm a healer that kind of hangs in the back. And I, am a healer that hangs out like in the front, and I'm like walking at the front of the line, and everybody's like, "Hey, you shouldn't be up there," and I'm like, "Really, bro?"
Yeah.
So anyway,
who knew this was a
maybe
a
I shouldn't
LARPing
be, but you should be. You should be glad I'm up.
I'm definitely like it's like when you're
you worry about you.
Yeah, when I say I'm the delicate healer, everybody just kind of laughs. So anyway, who knew this was going to turn into LARPcast 97? But that's fine. People are used to me. I do that all the time. And we should
I love it.
I'll get you guys to come back on. We'll do a whole LARP-centric episode. That'll be a whole lot of fun.
Totally. We are in.
We'll totally
I'm down.
Okay, so now that we are almost a half hour in, let's go around the horn. Shall we?
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun, and
yeah.
I got to talk to people, as my wife, who is in the other room listening, will attest. I got people that were actually interested in me telling my old war stories. So, of course, I was going to go crazy. So let's talk about games. So, Around the Horn, this is a segment where we talk about some of the games that we've been playing recently. I will go last, as I am on the home turf. What have you guys been playing?
So with the kids, we've been playing some fun stuff. I know Joe he came back from the last convention he went to with Love Letter.
Oh.
We actually went to the BGC, the Board Gaming Championship in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, which was last month in July.
Yeah, we unfortunately couldn't get there on exactly the same days. But
Joe and I had to go separately because the kids,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
And maybe next year we'll bring a couple of the kids because I think that certainly our son would really enjoy it because it's a lot of. I don't know if you're familiar with the BGC, but it's a lot of those.
I'm super hype without even thinking. I'm going next year. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So it's called the World Board Gaming Championship. So, you might be thinking classic board games, but it really is originally the Avalon Hill convention. So it's a lot of old scale battle games and things like that. So it's interesting watching these folks play these massive war games, but also they're bringing up some newer stuff like King of Tokyo I saw last time, and they actually do compete. So it's
Ivanhoe.
Brace yourself, Steve. It is 10 days of board gaming.
Nice.
It is a 10-day convention.
Whoa. All right. Well,
So it was too much for me. And, I'm a gamer, and I was a gamer. We have a panelist, Ed Povolitis, who is our hardest core gamer. And he goes full 10 days every year and does a lot of competing. But
I kind of felt like a LARP. I was at a LARP, with Ed there in I guess there were 6 people in that hotel room or whatever.
Inside the hotel room, it felt like a LARP cabin.
Yeah.
It was that tight.
It was that tight. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was a beautiful resort. It's a nice little country resort, and they had some really delicious crepes there. But anyway, Joe came back with Love Letter. We've been playing. My son is for the first time getting into Magic: The Gathering. So we're digging out the old stuff for that. And I've really enjoyed playing the last couple of weeks with Channel and some other old friends. Galaxy Trucker. Wow. I don't know if you've reviewed that one yet. Have you reviewed Galaxy?
We have not. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's a little heavy for us. Am I crazy? Maybe I just misread it. I just kind of read the first 5 minutes and kind of discounted it. Tell me if I'm nuts. Tell me about Galaxy Trucker.
It's kind of. I could see how. The answer to that is of course, it depends. But basically, what makes the game seem to be more complicated than it is that you're tapping different skills at different phases of the game. First of all, you build your spaceship under as much time pressure as your rival players can muster, and you're saying, okay, this is going to be cargo space, this is going to be crew space, this is going to be where I put my fuel, and this is where I put my guns. And since you're trying to do it as fast as you can, they're hoping they'll trick you into a
let me just say the time, it's really cool, that building piece, because the timer that's on there is subjective. So it's not always the same amount of time, because the players get to decide when to flip the timer back over. And you flip it 3 times. So if nobody decides to flip the timer over, you could keep building your ship for a half an hour. Yeah. It's all dependent on how often the timer is flipped, and that's subjective based on the players.
Okay.
So that's kind of a cool piece, right? Okay. So the building, even if you have younger people, the building's not super complicated. I mean, it's attach certain types of pipes to the same matching types of pipes. So I'm sure that kids could figure that out.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
And of course, they're during the middle section of the game, and when your spaceship is actually picked up its payload and it's on its route, you obviously you want to get there and deliver your cargo as fast as you can, but you don't know what's coming or what you're going to encounter on the way there, so you don't know whether or not you're in better shape. If for example there's a meteor swarm coming up, I mean you'd like to be last.
Yeah. Okay.
So the people in front of you shoot the path through.
Depends,
yeah. Or, but sometimes you want to be first. Maybe if there are goodies up there, you want to be first.
Okay.
I mean, my opinion is, let's see, the game. Let's see what the game. I'm not sure what the game says it's for ages. Let me look that up. But it's my opinion that I think it's not too gritty.
I'm gonna take a quick look
go ahead.
at
it. It's not too gritty. It won't scare anybody, but it is desperate. And what I mean by that is out there in space, the threats are so intense, like the meteor showers are so brutal, and the the raiders, the slavers, and the aliens, they can damage your ship to the point where you're coming into space dock with like a quarter of the ship you started with, if you're lucky. If it's
age 10 plus.
Take you offline. Okay. Yeah, okay, so age 10 plus. But again, you know how those ages, everybody has to make a decision for themselves with their own kids. But
that's true.
I think that certainly they'd be able to follow it. My 9-year-olds would be able to follow it and play. And I don't think it's too gritty, although it is desperate.
Sure. I think, here's what I think. This happens to me a lot by nature of the fact that I split the universe in two, and I do both. Is that sometimes I just have to make like a quick 2-minute decision based on 30 seconds of information, and I think that one may have just been an unnecessary casualty. However,
I have a ton of fun with it.
In your honor, I'm going to take a look at it and revisit it, because you never know. Who knows? It could end up being a huge hit.
Yeah, maybe come down and play with us sometime.
Well, now that we're all in Connecticut, now we're basically old war buddies.
That's right.
I think I have to, just so we can talk about LARP together.
We'll set it up.
Yeah, we absolutely we will do that. So that's Galaxy Trucker. Let's talk about Love Letter, because this game's been around for a while. Was it just like off your radar, or?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to admit, it just got overlooked. So what happened and why I first exposed the family to it, or Joe to it, and the panel to it, because it was my game that I brought and presented, it was a box that was always sitting on Ed's shelf. Now, Ed is our, again, hardcore gaming panelist, has hundreds and hundreds of games in his game room. Unlike you and I, Steve and Joe, he has the benefit of disposable income because he's a bachelor, and so he's always collecting a lot of games. And I always noticed that little box called Love Letter, but I never pulled it down. So one day I'm playing some long, sloggy game with Ed, because he's a huge fan of the really long games, and I pulled it down just to look at it. And every time, everybody at the table had nothing but good things to say about it. So I'm like, all right. I just was mystified as to how a 16-card game could entertain 4 or 5 people.
right?
Is it 3 to 4 people, Joe? How many people?
I think it goes up to 5, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, you can have 5 people playing it because the hands are so small.
Designed. Yeah, just brilliantly designed. Loved it. Joe brought it home for the kids because he really would be great for them. You know,
well, I knew TT in particular.
Our younger daughter would love it.
And I was correct. She totally ate it up.
Yeah, so it is 2 to 4 actually. It says 2 to 4 per Board Game Geek, if they can be trusted. I think they probably can. So this is one of those games. You know, it was one of the first games we picked up. So Engaged Family Gaming has been in operation for about 5 years. We started in 2013. And so we were originally just supposed to be a video game site, but we kind of stumbled into the board game thing. And the 2 first games that we picked up were Ticket to Ride and Love Letter. And Love Letter was relatively new at the time because it came out in 2012. So this is, you know, a year or so after it had come out. And at that point, I was super in. Because it was simple and I could bring it everywhere, and I did bring it everywhere. It's fallen out of favor recently just because I've thrown the cards at everyone I know so frequently that I think everybody just wanted a break. But I just think it's interesting. I mean, that's a great thing about the board game community and the board game industry and its growth is that you can have, like, you guys are lifelong fans, and you missed one of the biggest games in the last decade.
Yep.
And it's not because you ignored it, it's because there was just so much other stuff, right? Like if there was no other games, you would have played that in 2013, but because there was so much really good stuff, Love Letter flew under the radar, and that's that's bananas to me, but it makes total sense because you're playing other stuff.
Just like television, it is a golden age for board gaming too, and with that golden age, it's too much to catch.
Oh, man.
So that's why podcasts like yours and mine can help, folks, because it helps them sort of just make a choice, or raise awareness about things. Because there were a few games that we reviewed, and we've gotten Discord chats or tweets back saying, "Thank you for letting me know about it. I'd never heard about it," and it was like, "Wow, I love this game." So, it's nice to hear that, and I'm glad that we are getting an opportunity and have an excuse, actually, Joe and I, to play a whole bunch of games.
Isn't that the one side effect? On the downside is, you don't get to play a game that you really, really like to infinity. But the price for that is that we got to play all these games all the time, and we see all this new stuff. And play the new hotness and all that. So, we suffer. We have just these,
we endure.
The chains of content creation. The chains. So, speaking of content creation, have y'all heard of Rise of Tribes?
No.
I haven't.
Okay.
What's that?
Let's talk about Rise of Tribes.
What's that logo up there? I can almost see it. Looks almost like Darkest Dungeon font, but it's not.
Kinda.
I mean, above Rise of Tribes.
Oh, all right. So Rise of Tribes is from Breaking Games.
Is that a setting?
Well, it is. The setting is you are nomadic prehistoric people. I got the box over here. Let's see if we can get a better view for you guys for the box. This is bad radio for the people watching.
We'll describe it.
Here we go. Rise of
Joe,
Tribes.
what's it look like?
That looks like it's
super backwards.
Yeah, a bunch of different cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then okay, so nomadic, prehistoric. Oh, is that what you said? Prehistoric?
Or maybe not prehistoric, but ancient, certainly.
Well, it says prehistoric on the box, so I'm going to trust that they are right. So basically, this is this is the drill. It is this is another one that's 10 plus, and it's not as heavy as it looks. That box is huge. But that's because there's a bunch of shenanigans in the actual, there's other, tiles and, whatever. Basically, you build a hexagonal map a la Civilization. Each map, or each hex is, either a mountain or a lake or a
desert
or a forest. And each of the different tiles generate different resources, a la every other game known to man. And the idea is you start the game as one of the tribes, their civilizations. There's a basic mode where all the civilizations are the same, and then obviously there's an advanced mode where all the different civilizations do different stuff, and have neat little superpowers, a la every other board game ever made. What's really interesting about it, and what I think sets it apart, is that the game, the actual the actual actions in the game are driven by phases of the moon, and you do have a little bit of control of that. There are these 6-sided die that have 2 blank sides, 2 crescent moons, and 2 full moons on them. Or, no, 2 crescent moons and 2 suns, sorry. And so what you do is you play them across, there is a tracker that has the 4 different actions that you can take, which is move, gather, lead, and grow. Those are the different things you can do. And you take 2 actions on every turn. But on each of those 4 different actions that you can take, there are 3 spaces for dice that are set up. And so depending on, so you roll your die, you start with 2, and you roll the 2 of them, and you get to take 2 actions. So let's say you wanted to grow, you would take whatever you rolled and put it on the tracker, and there are only 3 spots. And so one of the die will kind of get pushed out, and that's the action that you take, and you use the result of that die. So when I'm rolling my dice, I'm putting it down there, I'm deciding what's going to happen for that action 3 turns from now. And then I get whatever was decided 3 turns ago, and there's a default setup for the game initially. It sounds super complicated. It's one of those games that literally you take 1 turn, it'll click for it.
Right.
We took 1 turn and it clicked for our 9-year-old. So it sounds way more complicated than it is. I love the art. It does have like this really cool push and pull because you're essentially trying to grow your civilization to build villages, because more villages earns you victory points. But the idea is if your village gets too big, then you are forced to fight people. You don't have a non-aggression option in this game. So eventually you're going to grow, and just there are conflicts, and they're resolved. So on the one hand, conflict just happens. On the other hand, like for example, my mom really hates going after other players. She wants to do her own thing. She will never play like gotcha at somebody else, even if
she's a cooperative gamer.
Even if it's a competitive game, she just if you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose on your own. She's not gonna be the one to do it, even if it is the most obvious tactical play. She will never do it unless she absolutely must. And I'll be like, Mom, you have to do this. You have to kill me. It's okay. I promise. I won't be mad. And then she'll do it, and of course I'll be like, "Damn it, Mom!" But but that's because that's the kind of guy I am. So the game here, you don't really have a choice, right? I mean, you take the grow action because you need to do it, and it just creates conflict. It is faster than it should be. It's simpler than it should be. It's prettier than it has any right to be.
That.
And it's
faster than it should be is a magic word for me.
It should take a long time. I mean, obviously, as with any game, there's a learning curve. It's relatively new. Came out it was a Kickstarter last year. We just got our production copy before Gen Con, so I suspect that it will be available regularly by holiday season. You guys should reach out to Breaking Games, because I'm sure they might have a copy for you. One of the things that I really dig about it is, and this is something that I think Breaking Games is going to be doing a lot of, it's by Brad Brooks, the guy that did Letter Tycoon. Have you guys played Letter Tycoon?
No.
What?
It already sounds fantastic.
Letter Tycoon? Letter Tycoon? Check this out. I'm bringing Letter Tycoon to your house. Not literally right now, but I'm going to.
I know.
Although
you could.
It'd be weird because I have work to do. But if I didn't have work to do, I would be there. Letter Tycoon is Scrabble, but you are playing with cards. And here's what's cool, right? You play you build your hand, you get letters, you build words. The words are worth money. You can buy the patent on letters, so that when your opponents play those letters later on, you get money.
Oh wow! You get a royalty.
Yes, you get money, and the which you can then use to which turn into victory points or whatever. And also, the aesthetic is crazy good. It looks like like a vintage. It looks like a game that you would find in an antique shop, even though it's not.
Yeah, it has beautiful colors. I can see they're really nice colors.
That's what really attracted me to it. I went to New York Toy Fair. My first ever, maybe my second, I don't know. One of my first toy fairs where I went up there, and I was captivated by this game, and it was in an early prototype phase, very early, and ever since then, I followed it through production. I ended up, they were going to send me a copy because the folks at Breaking Games knew I loved it. I talk about it on my show all the time. But someone bought it for me before they had the chance. But man, it's so good. But anyway, the thing that Breaking Games did for this game, and they're going to start doing with a bunch of their other games, is they have a deluxe upgrade, which just comes separately. So like you buy the game and it's like, cardboard shits and, like your normal stuff. But they sell like a separate box. I think this is going to retail for like $16 or whatever. And it turns all the cardboard pieces into meeples, and like the first player token is like a giant wooden elephant thing.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Like we are all for added value, production value.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so for those folks that just want the base game, by all means, just buy the base game. And even better, it fits in the insert. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Nice.
Pretty awesome.
Forethought.
Yeah, they're smart.
Kudos.
So yeah, that's Rise of Tribes. We played a demo version of it for their Kickstarter. We were one of the reviews for their Kickstarter because they knew we love Brad Brooks and his game so much, so they sent us the prototype. The prototype was baller. I mean, the prototype was really good. I was like, what else are they going to do? I mean, there was one piece that came to us as foam core, and it was the dice, like the action tracker thing, and they were like, sorry, we just didn't get these in time for your prototype, and I was like, guys, I mean, whatever, you're sending me a free copy of your game, I'm not going to get mad. And they've replaced it, so, I mean, it's a very cool game. Like I said, it's easier to learn than it should be. It's faster than it should be. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous, especially on the different leaders. I really dig it. Also, there's something to be said about a game featuring like primitive cultures that is not culturally appropriative. It's like nice that it's like, hey, this is the dawn of civilization, but we're not going to be racist. And I was like, woo.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, nice. So that's Rise of Tribes.
This art is gorgeous on the cover of Rise of Tribes. It's beautiful. The colors are gorgeous. The drawings are upbeat, which I really like. It's a very upbeat, positive looking pictures, which is like helps me want to build my tribe up. And that matters a lot to me. Like, I want to be immersed in the game, and the visuals have to do that for me. And these people on this box look like they want to move forward in civilization.
Correct.
And I like that.
Also, I mean, and you're looking at the art, and those of you that are near a computer while you're listening, please don't crash your car looking at your phone while you're driving. But the one thing that I did notice a lot is the use of bright light in there, right? Whether it be motes of light that kind of float around some of the characters or built into their costumes, but just the light from behind everything, really just kind of making everything pop. I am not an artiste by trade, but it clearly there was some intention behind that. They didn't do that by accident. So that's Rise of Tribes. We're gonna have a review up on the site soon. It's you guys know how that goes.
Oh yeah.
But for
not enough hours in the day.
But here, let me give you a one-word review. It's pretty good. That's 2 reviews. It's pretty good. I think people will like it.
Nice.
So it's fun, and I will certainly. We're gonna have to have a game time, and I'll bring Rise of Tribes and Letter Tycoon.
I've just been looking at the. I've been quiet for a while, but when you mentioned the art, I had to look up the art for a second.
So what do you think?
Really great art. It really is great art.
I was
very inspirational.
It was neat following the Kickstarter, because when the Kickstarter happened, when it started, they only had rough concept art for most of the leaders, right? So it was neat kind of watching them, and they didn't have names and things like that, so a lot of the components were good, but those pieces were kind of unfinished art, how prototypes go. But it was really cool watching the artist really deliberately release the information about the different leaders and what they were going to look like and their personalities and all this stuff. I think it's super neat. I want to know who these characters are. I want a game with just them.
The leaders look like. I like the breakdown of the leader characters and their special abilities. or the special ability of the tribe
Sure.
per se, and they do seem pretty well balanced. I was just taking a quick look, which they look interesting. I couldn't tell you if they're balanced yet because I haven't played, but they look interesting to sort of have these tribes on the board together. I could see how their special abilities would blend in an interesting way.
I can say comfortably they're pretty well balanced. There's no such thing as perfect balance. Anybody who's ever played Magic the Gathering knows that. So I think that wraps up Around the Horn. So why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk more about your show because I want to, and I'm in charge.
That's a damn
good.
fine reason.
All right. So, folks, we'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 146 of Engage, a family gaming podcast. I'm still Steven, still here with Celeste and Joe from Which Game First.
Hi.
We're still talking about board games.
For sure.
Because you guys enjoy them, at least a little bit.
I had fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Enough to start a podcast. So
yeah.
So you gave us the quick hits version earlier, which is you guys are longtime friends. You finally decided it's time to actually make something of this game night, and so you made a podcast happen. You found a producer. That's how you guys formed, which I think, that's a super, that's a super cool story. Mine's way more boring. I wanted to write about video games, and now here I am, podcasting about board games. Who knew that was a thing? So, I'm on a website that you guys run called whichgamefirst.com, which I recommend everybody go look at, by the way. First off,
thank you.
I do enjoy the design on your site. I know this is totally not a web design podcast, but I just want to throw that in there.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All of your different icons and stuff really kind of capture. I hope. It looks like they capture who you guys are.
We hope. That was our aim.
That was the aim. I think it works. I might have to crib some of that style because I really appreciate at least that style. So let's talk a little bit about what it's like being a content creator in what is probably the golden era of board games,
Age of
right?
content.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Of board games. For sure. It is crazy. It's amazing. That's why our tagline is exploring the hilariously huge world of board games.
Right.
And
if
that's
this
how
is
I
not
intro
the
every
golden
episode.
age, then
Yeah, right. So
then I can't wait for it to get here.
Right?
Joe just wants to be historical and evidence-based about this, but I think we can safely say it is a golden age of gaming. It's amazing. As Ed was saying to me, who keeps track of stats, there's 2,000 board games, whether they're independent or mass released, every year that are coming out. It's something along those lines. So it's amazing, and of course the quality is huge. It is the era of the artist. It's really wonderful. We have been having a great time discovering new games and old games. Evan Bernstein, one of our panelists, is a huge fan of vintage board games. So we mix everything in. We mix
As the World Turned vintage.
Yeah. Like before As the World Turned, we played a game from the 30s called Eddie Cantor's game, Tell It to the Judge.
That one too, yeah.
So he loves vintage games. We do everything, but we have been doing more contemporary games. Not just because we're getting a lot of feedback and footing with that, but it is what a lot of people are interested in. We definitely like to mix in older games on occasion, but there's just so many darn good games out there right now that we just want to play. We want to play a lot of the new ones. It's what's really catching our interest. So that's great. Having all the different personalities on the podcast is a ton of fun, and it is very different. We are all 5 very different types of gamers with very different interests in gaming. So we each like different types of games and different pieces of each game. And we're really finding out that they matter. Each piece matters differently to each gamer.
What do you think our oldest game was? Would that have been the Uncle Wiggily game? Or?
Yeah, probably Uncle Wiggily. What year was that? 1916?
1916, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably our old. I mean, if you don't count our review of basically Ludo games, which have been around for hundreds of years.
Well, that's true.
Then yeah.
Are not dated.
Right. So we have really had discovered a lot about each other in doing this podcast too, and sort of found out what how to push each other's buttons sometimes and stuff just to have fun. So, Mike, for example, Mike Grenier, one of our panelists, cannot stand games where there's backward momentum. So any game where you ever have to go backward for any reason drives him crazy. And so, it's something that modern designers tend to stay away from, is that sort of backward momentum, and they try to be more inclusive than older style games. Mm-hmm. But when we play those vintage games, boy, it drives him table flipping crazy. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it
is. It's
fun. That's good podcast.
There's something to be said about trolling your friends.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm with you on that. That's, what's interesting is that the way you describe that, there's a parallel there to, video games, too, which is, I know this is board game week. Sorry, folks, but it's just interesting how the way you phrase that, right? Like the idea of, backward momentum, and how modern contemporary board gamers designers try and stay away from it. Right. It's kind of that same thing, like video games used to cheat to steal your quarters, right? And now, we have saves points and checkpoints every 15 feet, and
Yes. One thing I noticed, getting back to Fortnite, and I know it's board game week, but honestly, Joe and I are excited to talk about video games because we don't get to talk about them on our podcast.
Listen, we don't. Let's throw down, because people will be fine.
But one thing I noticed about Fortnite, and I was apprehensive, not so much for the violence, but I thought, here's going to be a 9-year-old playing what's essentially an MMO RPG or something, and I remember in our day, MMORPGs and MMOs were like Quake Arena, which was so brutal. It was like you couldn't get a footing because it would just be these, spawn campers who would sit and kill you instantly all the time. And I thought, geez, this kid's not going to have any fun with this, because it's just going to be people killing you all the time. And that is just not the case anymore. Nope. There's the gaming, MMO gaming is so different now, and there's so many new players all the time that it's not like that, where the experts just get you instantly. So that was really a delightful surprise for me, to find that you could really play these games. You didn't have to be an expert and play hundreds of hours just to be able to hold your own.
To survive for 10 seconds.
Yeah. The commercialization of the two mediums, be it video games and board games, people have figured out that in order to kind of get things more mainstream, you actually need to make it so that more people can play them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And while that sounds intuitive to us, that wasn't the case with board games, right? They were a niche.
Same thing with board games, yeah.
And they just didn't have the experience to, make these games back in the day. They didn't think about things the same way that we do now. And frankly, they didn't have video games to help, because I know that a lot of modern board game, design sensibilities, feed off of what video games have done, and vice versa.
I think there was a feeling back then that once someone buys the game, then that's all the benefit you can really get.
True.
From it, and that's the end of the story once somebody buys the game. But
right now it's a lot bigger into brand building, and my favorite advancement in recent, I guess, decades now is just how broad themes have gotten with board games. And I just love that. The genres are so vast now. It's not just move forward, go backward, shoots, ladders, go to the head of the class. It's not a few basic ideas. It's these broad, picturesque, novel ideas that encompass huge stories, and I love that. The narrative, the more the theme of the game informs play for me, the more I'm in. So I just love how broad and how many choices you get in what you can play about.
And they're huge swaths of concept sometimes.
Yeah.
That that you and most often when they occur, they're not things that you have to wade through. That thing can tap into if you're inclined to do it.
Absolutely. Well, so Celeste, being that you're the theme person, that clearly I've got you pegged, mainly because you said it out loud and I listened. Funny things like that. So I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not some kind of like crazy person that you said it out loud. So what'd you think? What'd you think of Fire Tower? Because you were at CT Fig.
I liked it. First off, I love the look of it. So when I was walking past it, right, and I just was like, ooh, what is that? What's going on over there? So many cool, little pieces and the bright orange color and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that alone, and we talked about this on our podcast because we did our smaller podcasts, mini episodes that we do are called Brief Expeditions. So we have one weekly podcast, which is our full-length podcast where we review 3 games. But we also have mini episodes here and there where we talk about game-related things. Usually it's an interview or a review of a convention we've been to. And when we did the one on the CT Fig, we talked about how cool those pieces were. Unfortunately, I personally didn't get a chance to sit down and play it, and boy, I wish I had. But I know Mike and Ed had a chance, and they were talking about it. But just from the look of the game and how people were enjoying it, because I was watching it be demoed, it was actually right next to Clear the Decks. So I saw it being demoed right there. I was interested. I just didn't get a chance to sit and play because it looked great. And I actually asked, I said, wow, are all those pieces in the box? And that's what I want to know, Steve. Do you get all those orange flame pieces in one box?
Not all of them, because I think on that table they had like the giant pile that you could like go swimming in, but you do get quite a few. You definitely get a bunch. But they for a dramatic effect on their table, they do have like a giant pile of them, more than you could ever need. But you get enough to cover pretty much that whole board. Like, if a game goes long enough, fortunately they're demos, obviously, very few people play a full game at a demo, but having reviewed it for their, not truly reviewed, but having previewed it for their Kickstarter, I mean, a couple of the games that we played, we deliberately stalled each other out, and at one point in the beginning we actually played by the wrong rules and stalled ourselves out even worse than normal, and we had almost the entire board covered with fire. And it just, I mean, that is really attractive.
It was. It's cool how much it looks like flame.
Yeah, I mean, when when I saw the original template for that, or not template, the original prototype, they were like, yeah, this is kind of a placeholder. We're thinking about trying to find something else. And I was like, bro, no. Like, I was at the table playing their prototype at one of the first CT Figs, and I was like, no, listen. I mean, unless these are ridiculously expensive, you use these things. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
It definitely helps, and that's huge. For me, it's like if it looks like it's supposed to be, and this is something I really enjoyed with Century Spice Road, where they had these little bowls. This is a game, a fairly new game. Century Spice Road has these little bowls with spices. Now, the spices are little cubes, but the bowls were so cool. They look like little terracotta bowls, even though they were plastic. And these Fire Tower pieces, the immersion that is added by having pieces that make it look like you're lighting something on fire is fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounds, I mean, I have not played Century Spice Road. That's one of those games that I need to get to I need to find a copy of it and get it to my table. I want to, and I've been told that it's like right in my wheelhouse because I do like engine building, things like that. So I will get there. I promise.
I know. That's what we all say.
That's what we all say. That's what we all say. But I mean,
is the drawback.
What are you gonna do? I mean, I got to get my little scythe to the table first, but that's gonna happen.
Right.
That's gonna happen. So before I go too much farther, I do want to plug your Patreon because you guys are a Patreon supported podcast.
We are,
yes.
and It's really important. So our supporters make it possible for us to podcast. And right from the beginning, it was our model to not, only count on Patreon, but have it as an important piece to us thriving and being able to continue.
Sure.
And it's been great so far. And it's hugely important to us. If you want to support the show, there's nice perks that you get with it. Lots of little episodes that are just for our Patreon listeners. And also, we're going to start these Discord dates with our patrons. So anybody who supports us, and we only have one level, it's $3. So $3 a month. And you get all the perks. And we're trying to give our patrons as much access to us, the panelists, as possible. So we're going to start these things called Discord dates because we have special channels just for our patrons on Discord where they can chat with us directly about a given topic. And we're hoping to be able to do that once a month. That's going to be a big thing for us. And, we're always trying to get feedback from our patrons to find out more about what they'd like. But yep, if you want to support our show, if you like us, first give us a listen, which just go to our website, whichgamefirst.com. You can listen there or on any podcast feed. And then if you're interested in supporting us, there's lots of little perks for it.
Far be it from me. I'm just going to say, if you want to give them money, by all means, go to their Patreon and give them money first.
You can go to the website and just click on support.
Listen,
that's how you get right to Patreon.
I'm just throwing that out there. If anybody's listening, I mean, if that's what you want to do, just throw money at them. It's cool. I don't think they'll be mad.
We won't throw it back. Nope.
We're not really proud in that
way.
Particular in that way.
We are not proud in that way.
We are content creators in the 2000s. We can't be proud. If you're proud, that means you're talking to one person and it's probably your dog. So so let me take that. So pride is not what I'm all about. So
right.
So where did you come up with the explorer aesthetic? Like, where did that come from? Because I dig the idea of exploring, but, like, the fact that you got, like, the pith hat and all that, like, and the fact that you're laughing, it's worth noting. I listen pretty good. I'm not as stupid as I look or sound. Tell me the story of where this came from.
Well, we knew from the get-go that we were not going to be a deep dive podcast. That's not what we are. We are a light podcast. We want to give you a quick overview of the games, and we want to do it in a fun way that's got a lot of humor. The jokes are pretty fast in our podcast and so forth, and we're really enjoying ourselves, and that's what we wanted to bring to our listeners. Mm-hmm. So we said, you know what, let's have a little bit of a theme over what are we doing. Right? Mm-hmm. So we really just wanted to have something that a little tiny bit, and I guess this comes from my days of running a little theater company when I was in my 20s out of my nightclub in New Haven. And, I couldn't help myself but put on shows. And also from my indie film days, I wanted a little tiny bit of production value. So I said, and you know me, I'm theme heavy, right? Theme's my thing. So let's have a theme for our podcast. And what are we doing? We're looking at games, right? We're trying to see whether or not we like them. What really are we doing? We're exploring. And this world is huge. We are like archaeologists in the game world. We're going to look at old games. We're going to look at new games. We're just going to adventure through this thing like we're an adventuring group. Let's put on our PIV helmets and go. Yeah. So that's where the theme came from. We all decided, all right, let's examine the theme of explorers and exploration. And it really seemed to click for us. And we like the adventure music and all that. So we put a little adventure music in the front, as we're doing our intros and outros. And it keeps us upbeat, and we hope it does the same for our listeners.
I seem to remember a stage where basically we wanted there to be very basic six-sided die on there, and we wanted to put some kind of accoutrement on it. So the pith helmet was it was a very easy, recognizable thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were looking at we were trying to come up with a distinctive. Yeah, it was definitely, and we're trying to come up with a universal game piece, right? And so we did talk about maybe a meeple for our logo, or a spinner, or something like that. But when it comes down to it, we're gamers, we're role players, and the D6 is king. Yeah. So, eventually we were just like, yeah, D6 is used by a lot of people, but it really, for us, is definitive for who we are and what we like.
Fair enough.
And and so that's where that exploration came from and our logo. And if you listen to our podcast, you'll see that, boy, we love rolling dice. And any game that gives you a lot of dice to roll, we almost always review it well. It's just something about us. Yeah. That's the one thing where I think we all have in common. We love rolling dice.
Then when you roll 15 dice and say, I got to put all my 4s over here and this, however many dice I want to allocate to,
You're all wizards at heart. You're all wizards at heart.
Yeah. It may come back to our D20 days or even earlier.
Yeah. Listen, I can't get mad at any of that. I have also been known to throw a few dice in my day, so I can't even get a little bit mad at that. So, last little question here, because again, logistics amuses me. So you review 3 games a week.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you decide what games make it onto each episode? Do you battle it to the death?
No, there's a ton of games out like
to the slight injury,
to the pain, as it were.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
We each take turns presenting games.
Okay.
So we're allowed to, in rotation, bring games to the table.
Oh, okay.
And since we get to bring so many games to the table because we got to have 3 a week.
Yeah.
That we never really have to fight too hard because there's always, the engine's always running for us.
Sure.
And there's always going to be a new game on the horizon. So nobody has to wait too long to bring their next game. So we haven't had much trouble there.
All right. Fair enough.
I
think we've never had to worry about not having enough games to review.
No, as we said, right? Yeah. 2,000 games a year, we wouldn't
That's
even.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting our hands on them. Although Ed's library gave us a great start.
It does give you a good start. Yeah. Well, and I'm going to bring you Rise of Tribes and Letter Tycoon.
Yeah.
Wait, have you done Dragoon
Yeah, Letter
yet?
Tycoon, sure.
Have you done Dragoon?
For the podcast, no.
No.
But
I'll just bring you a whole episode. No, listen, hold on. I got it right here. You've definitely seen it. It's right here. This guy right here.
Oh, yes.
With the golden dragons and stuff.
What is that? Is that like Ed McCaffrey, or what is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in as much as there's dragons, yes, but no.
No. Okay.
No, they got these metal dragons.
Ooh, a bag.
Oh, the bag.
Shake it.
Wait,
so
the bag is the...
Shake it.
Oh, man.
Cool. Listen to those pieces. Listen to them.
Oh, listen! Look at this. This is bad radio, but look at these metal dragons.
Metal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, metal. I am a fan
already. You had
me
with the jingling. Mean, I don't. When it makes that sound with the bag, and I can't tell what it is, and I get curious. I don't care what's in there.
Those are metal dragons. But no, for real. The let me see what I can get here. Because the gold one is actually gold plated.
Yeah.
Because they're just crazy people. Like this little dragon den thing. So you put that on the map. But they just put out and this is I'm very, very lucky that they liked me and they sent me a copy of it. They sent me the quote unquote cheap version that doesn't have a insert in it. I'm fine. Thanks, guys. I didn't need an insert for the game. But they did come out with a cheaper version because the full version is, I think it's like $80 for a small game box, but that's because the dragons are metal. But they have a cheaper one now that has 3D printed plastic dragons. And they're like teal and ketchup red, and like they're meant to be like goofy colors, but it's the same game, obviously. So I will bring you Dragoon, Rise of Tribes, and Letter Tycoon. We can have a whole. I'll just give you a whole episode.
Right on.
Just right there.
Wow.
And I'll just make sure that I'll put my stamp with my logo like in the middle of every picture. I'll be that guy. I'll be like aggressive self-marketing guy. That's its own game. It's me finding a way to get my logo into every shot. But we have a similar
These cards
issue.
look really cool for Dragoon.
Yeah, oh man, Dragoon is so good.
I love the map. It's cartoony in a really fun way.
Mm-hmm.
This map is really neat.
And it's a
Dragoon.
cloth. And it's a cloth map.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And the funny story is they were gonna have like a one of those cardboard foldy ones, and then they were just messing around and like just day drinking on a Sunday afternoon. And they were like, well, what if we did a cloth map? And then they just asked the guys like how much it would be, the printer, and they were
right.
And it turned out that it really wasn't that bad, and they were like, whatever.
I think it's a good choice.
Yeah.
I think it's a good choice because they already have a cloth bag, so you stick everything in the bag and go.
Well,
and
I don't actually put the board in the bag. I
love that font. It's very Flash Gordon-y.
But this
the
is
font,
the map it's a little unwieldy to put in there, but this is the map.
Yeah, that looks great.
It's a little unwieldy to fit into the bag.
It is.
Yeah,
okay.
a little bit, but the bag is the score tracker.
Yep.
Got the score print and it doesn't hurt that the lay waste games guys. I don't know if you've ever met any of them. If you haven't and we're ever at a convention with them, I will absolutely do an introduction because they're
thanks.
Because if for nothing else, they're super cool cats. And they have
they look it. You can kind of tell by the game.
I mean you can tell by looking at their website. No, they're super cool guys. And every time I see them, they're just they're super enthusiastic. They just really love making games. And you can really tell they put that energy into everything they do. And they have Dragoon, which is just a runaway success. They brought it to Gen Con.
Good for them.
They brought it to Gen Con, and it was gone in like light speed.
Awesome.
Which, I mean, I saw it, and I knew that was going to happen, but they were doubtful, and I was like, no, you guys are going to be good. You'll be fine. Needless to say, it was like Nightcrawler came in, grabbed it, and poof. So
yeah, one of our panelists, Ed, says he has to drive his car out to Gen Con. Now this is a hardcore gamer. This is what you're going to run into at Gen Con. He has to drive his car out just so he has room to fit everything because he couldn't fly back with all the booty that he gets. Mm-hmm. All of the games that he wants to buy, he has to have a car to bring them home.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That culture, because most of my convention experience before was video game stuff, and video games you could have a great trip buying a lot of stuff. And it fits in a backpack. But then the idea of being on Facebook groups and seeing people talk about what kind of hand truck they want to bring. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You want a hand truck that'll be easy to carry on the way in, but you want it to be sturdy enough to. What do you mean sturdy hand truck? What are you buying, a refrigerator? And no, but then you see the pictures and I'm like, oh my God, Gen Con is crazy. But then you think about it. Some of these are, so there are folks that don't buy any board games all year.
What if I'm on my way to Starbucks down the street and someone left caltrops out on the sidewalk or something? I don't want to get sidelined by something like that. It's embarrassing.
I would say tough crap. Don't go get Starbucks. And just buy your games uncaffeinated is what I would say. Or buy a hand truck, I guess. But it's
he was talking about the sturdy hand truck.
Oh, the sturdy hand
truck. The caltrops
don't
get you.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's fair. But the landmines. Well, if there's landmines, bigger problems. A hand truck not going to help you. It's crazy to think about that. And that's something that I had to realize when seeing all these Gen Con halls. Is there's people who don't have a game store near them, that don't like using Amazon and don't run board game blogs where board games get sent to them. So they go to Gen Con and they buy 50, 60 games, and that's all the games they're going to play for the next 10 years. And then they just go back to Gen Con the next year and do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not made it
Bless
there myself.
Those people, by the way.
Yeah. Have you guys been to PAX Unplugged yet? Did you go last year?
No, this will be our first year at PAX.
Yeah.
So Joe's looking forward to it. He actually has some friends that are going, right, Joe? Some people online friends. So this will be the first chance to get to meet them.
Yeah, they were online friends of mine. There was maybe a group of 30 or 40 people who met online pretty regularly. And then the site eventually ended because the people had just put so much into it that they couldn't really keep up with the time commitment of keeping it up in the fashion that everyone was used to. So,
one of the original chat rooms from a million years ago, right?
Yeah.
So these old chat room buddies, how fun is that?
Now you can just have a Discord for free.
Right, exactly. Which is what put him out of business. But that's why we were interested. But now we're really looking forward to PAX because of all the attractions that are going to be there.
PAX Unplugged,
it looks really great.
PAX Unplugged, you want to go and get in on the ground floor because I think it's going to be neat watching it grow. I think, one of my co-hosts, Rob, and I'm kind of with him. I think over time PAX Unplugged will grow to rival Gen Con.
Ooh, exciting!
Because it might. Certainly has the potential to do so.
I mean, PAX East and PAX West, etc., like the general genre conventions, are getting huge to the point where they're starting to compete with other big. I mean, so it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at Kineticon. How huge was that this year? It blew me away. And it's a fandom con.
Exactly. I've lived in Connecticut since I was 13, so many years. And I have never been to Kineticon. I'm never going to miss it again. That was super fun. I'm gonna go,
it was so much fun.
I wanted to bring my son. I didn't bring my kids. I thought it was going to be a
Next year
small
for sure.
anime thing. And it turns out, like, just the video game room alone would have kept my kids occupied for 5 days.
Yeah, kept mine occupied.
Oh, man.
For sure. It's a fantastic convention.
Absolutely.
We won't miss it again.
Oh, absolutely
But
not.
so as you said, cons like that are growing quickly, and PAX is approaching it from a general space not only, helps. I think it helps games and gamers too to not just be in their own insular world, but to be mixing with fandom cons and stuff like that. Exposes more people to games.
You're darn right.
Yeah.
You're darn right.
And exposes people to other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, different groups of people, right? Yeah. Different interests together. Yeah.
Right.
It's great.
Absolutely. Like it's interesting to think about how like first video games were insulated and non-social, and it's weird how people still thought the same thing about board games. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, because by default, board games in general require at least 2 people. So I don't know what you mean by board games. It's not a social experience. And now you have shows like, PAX Unplugged and Gen Con and, obviously some of these other shows that are like, no, this is a growing, lively, real industry full of well-adjusted adults and children.
Right.
It's just so weird stereotypes, and it's great to be able to reject them. And just kind
it's fading for sure.
It definitely is. And it's great to see some of these shows really just expose people. Like, nobody thinks San Diego Comic-Con is weird.
No, but when I went,
weird.
When I went in 1992, though, people were looking at me a little crooked. It's like that. So it has changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
And that is wonderful. It's. I think video games had a lot to do with that because they started to feel more like a sport, than this strange hobby. And so people are looking at it in a much more tolerant light, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
because it's so much fun. What's not fun about it?
I think slowly people are starting to figure out that once you can make money with something, making fun of it is no longer helpful.
Yeah,
it's like, wait, nerds have money?
Yeah, shunning it is not the thing to do.
Nerds do in fact have money, and nerds
a lot of it
like to spend money.
Yeah, they like to spend on their hobbies.
Absolutely. So I think we are running out of time because we are all parents and we live on the East Coast, and it's super late.
Yeah.
So why don't we wrap it up? What's y'all's next podcast that you guys are releasing? Give me a spoiler.
That's a good question. A spoiler for next. Well, I'm going to tell you what we just released yesterday.
Yeah, how about that?
So, yeah. Or was it today? Is today Monday? Oh, we released today. So today we released, let's see.
I see him. I'm cheating because I'm looking.
Yeah, I know. We've got so many in the can that I'm trying to think of the one we released. So this week is Galaxy Trucker. And with Marco Polo and our vintage game Uncle Wiggly, we'll usually have one game that's like bananas way out there.
Marco Polo, which I should have won.
Right. That's actually, I really enjoyed listening to the final cut of this particular episode. So the Uncle Wiggly conversation was hilarious. Galaxy Trucker, I think, was very informative. So that's our most recent one. But like I said, we're out every week with 3 new games. So lots to listen to and lots to help you make a decision as to which game will be next for you.
Awesome. So, I want to thank you both for coming on my show.
Thank you for having us.
We'll have to do this again. And I'm going to just force my way onto your show at some point down the line because I'm a brute. Yeah. I'm a brute like that. But I'll bring you stuff to review. I mean, that's just how.
Hey, the world needs brutes. Brutes make stuff happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You know.
What would the LARP group be without the brute?
Yeah, exactly.
Without brutes.
That'll be me. That'll be me. I'm just the big stupid meat shield. That'll be me.
Yeah.
With that said, thank you so much for being on my show. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure my audience appreciates you guys' perspective and experience because everybody needs help getting their family game on. So, folks listening, I thanked them. I thanked my guests. Now I got to thank you. Thank you so much for listening to episode 146 of Engage, a family gaming podcast. I come to you with hat in hand. I would like you to do me one favor. And I ask this favor every once in a while. Everyone who's listening knows one person that would love to hear this show. Maybe they like podcasts and they're not really into board games or video games yet, but maybe you think they'll be interested. Give them a listen. Maybe they love board games, but they've never listened to a podcast, but they're down with audiobooks. Give them a listen, or give them a link. Spread the word. If everybody that listens to the show kind of shared it with gently, don't be aggressive, come on, but shared it with one person, some of them would stick because some people tell me I'm likable. I don't know what they're thinking, but whatever. So we get to, and just a bigger audience means more stuff. You know how podcasts work. So please do the thing. And we would be appreciative. Next week, we're going to talk about video games. Specifically, we're going to have that Fortnite conversation that I was supposed to do last week, but I just was sick as a dog. And after that, this is an early spoiler, I am interviewing the starting punter for the Washington Redskins.
Oh.
He's going to be on a board game podcast, folks. You might wonder why, and you know what? I'm not going to tell you until next week, because that's what they call a tease in the business. So, so that's it. 2 weeks of programming. One Fortnite, next starting punter from the Washington Redskins. So, thank you very much, Celeste and Joe. You guys are great.
Thank you.
I had a blast here.
Great. Well, then we'll have to do this again. You know what? Let's try and find some time to get all 5 of you on with me, and then we'll just do something real stupid. It'll be great.
Okay.
Just super dumb.
We're always up for stupid.
Yeah, let's just do something completely stupid, and we'll pull my producer.
Silly, not too destructive.
John will absolutely hate me, but it's fine. We'll be okay. I'll buy him a pizza.
So, we're gonna say sorry, John.
It'll be fine. We'll preemptively say sorry, John. So, everybody out there, I do hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you next week. Until next time, don't forget to get your family game on. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Engage, a family gaming podcast. Thank you for listening to